Bria Maranthus with Mike Fisher. We're here at the Star Dallas Cowboys headquarters. The Cowboys lost to the Eagles last Sunday, but should this team be more confident after the defeat?
I've never heard of such a thing, except this week in this building. I'm stunned.
The positivity is out there,
which is lovely, but I don't think it's realistic. Obviously, they do get to come away from the Eagles game, and the Eagles are aware of this. Hey, if not for, as Michael Irvin put it, small little things.
A game of literal inches in Philly.
Right, an inch this way, another inch that way, maybe. But they lost. The Eagles won, and the Cowboys lost. If the Cowboys feel confident after losing by 5, imagine how confident the Eagles must be after winning by 5. I think you have to use it psychologically and build on it. I don't think you come away from that with your tail between your legs. But Dak Prescott, we're more confident now. Micah Parsons, we're more confident now. I'm stunned. And maybe impressed at the Cowboys trying to spin this into a positive mental cycle for themselves, because that's not usually the way these things work.
It's very true. So far this season, running back Tony Pollard only has 1 game of rushing for more than 100 yards. How can this Cowboys team get this ground game going?
Yeah, and you don't want to get too caught up, Bree, in the stats.
Yeah.
For instance, he also, it's been a while since he scored a touchdown around here, like a long while. But yet in the Eagles game, on the play where the referees decide that Chuma Edoga had not checked in as an eligible receiver, number 71 on the right side, when I think he did, somebody goofed somehow. Tony Pollard scored on that.
Right.
He reached out and scored. So there's a touchdown, except it's not. Same thing with, he hasn't, and I don't have all the numbers in front of me, he hasn't had a 100-yard game. Well, what if he had if a guy had an 89-yard game, what's the difference?
Right.
In a sense. Dan Quinn said this on the podium here not too long ago, right here in this room, when somebody asked him about, are you aware that the Cowboys defense have not given up a 100-yard receiver and a 100-yard rusher? And he said, no, I'm not aware of that. And the reason he's not aware of it is because
a lot of stats don't matter.
That number, the round number, doesn't matter as much as the real bottom line and the real core concerns. The running game, especially between the tackles, is not good enough here. And whether that's the fault of the Texas Coast offense and the play caller, Mike McCarthy, whether it's because they need a power runner in addition to Tony Pollard, what if it's because they've had issues with having their best 5 offensive linemen all together at the same time? All those things have come together to have the Cowboys not be as good as they want to be and need to be in that area. That's not taking anything away from the good things they've done on offense or the fact that they're 5-3. But Tony Pollard would be the first person to tell you, we need to find a way to be more effective in here. Maybe they need to give him the ball more out there, which the Cowboys did do against the Eagles to some level of effectiveness. And then, yes, we don't want to get too caught up in the numbers, but you can't go forever without having your Pro Bowl running back score a touchdown.
Yeah, he needs a breakout game.
A breakout game for a lot of reasons, not just so there's a bunch of zeros at the end of a big fat number, but in terms of effectiveness. A better Tony Pollard and a more effective Tony Pollard will mean a more winning Cowboys team.
Jerry Jones raved about quarterback Dak Prescott even after the Cowboys lose to the Eagles. This is a bigger question for you, but is Dak the best quarterback right now in the NFC conference? Because obviously Jalen Hurts just came away with the win, but one could argue that maybe Dak looked better in that performance.
He is certainly on a 3-game roll where Mike McCarthy a couple weeks ago said we're kind of cutting him loose. So we're doing more things with our offense as we feel more comfortable with them. I do think this. I think increasingly the Cowboys are throwing because they want to, as opposed to because they have to. And that's a positive thing. They're throwing as a weapon instead of as a reaction. We'd have to go and kind of rattle through the who's who in the NFC among quarterbacks.
Jared Goff's been playing great.
Detroit's doing good things. We know that Jalen Hurts ultimately gets really good things done.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. ESPN did this computer deal, and it's so goofy. where they ranked the 10 best teams in the NFL right now, and they had the Cowboys above the Eagles.
Can't do that. They just played.
Can't do that. They had the Bills above two teams that the Bills. They also had the Dolphins above the Eagles. So the Cowboys and the Eagles are above. Cowboys and the Dolphins are above the Eagles, even though the Eagles beat them.
Even though the Eagles lead the entire league in wins.
Right. They have the Bills. Right now, the Bills are 5-4, and if the playoffs started, which they don't, but if they are on the outside looking in, the Bills would not be a playoff team today. Yet they have the Bills ranked above the Bengals and other teams that the Bills have lost to. So I'm not too caught up in the rankings. I'm more caught up in the results. And the Jalen Hurts results and what his team's doing make him, forget about ranking in the NFC, they make him a leading candidate for MVP of the NFL.
Okay, I like that. In Week 10, the New York Giants are coming to AT&T Stadium to take on the Dallas Cowboys, but they will be without quarterback Daniel Jones, who suffered an ACL injury that will end his season. What does this mean for the Giants, and then what does this mean for the league in general?
Yeah, Daniel Jones, friend of the show, and they might not have the number 2 guy available, and so Tommy DeVito, might be the quarterback. Yeah, and we've seen a lot of this with Josh Dobbs, what he did for the Vikings, unfortunately for Atlanta. We saw Josh Dobbs do it in Arizona to some degree against the Cowboys. Hey, what a great story. This guy comes from nowhere, and they throw him out of the lineup at quarterback, and somehow he succeeds. That's probably not going to happen this week for the Giants. The odds on this game at the beginning of the week, before the Daniel Jones determination, was Cowboys by 16.
Yeah, wow.
And now it's 16.5, and it's probably growing. This is about as lopsided on paper as you're going to get. Now, the Giants still have their weaponry. They have front 7 personnel on defense, and they have Saquon Barkley. But you're down to a quarterback that there's no evidence that he can play quarterback against a Cowboys team starting to put it together on offense, no question, and a Cowboy team that has done elite things on defense. So the Giants are once again a non-contender. Last year they did in the NFC what the Commanders did a couple years previous.
Yeah.
Boy, they did it for just a minute.
Yeah.
The Giants were good for just a minute, and now not again. The Commanders were good just for a minute, and now not again. And the class, of course, of the NFC East is once again Eagles clearly, no offense, Cowboys, Eagles clearly over Dallas with still some time to maybe catch up.
That's true. The Philadelphia Eagles lead the NFC East division. What is the number one thing the Cowboys must do in order to usurp them at the top?
You know, there are those small little things. But here's what's left out of that conversation. It's so Cowboy-centric. What if the Eagles do small little things better too? They made small little mistakes. Fortunately for Philadelphia, on their 3 forced fumbles, they recovered all of them. Those were small little mistakes that worked out well for Philadelphia. But the Eagles can get better. That's the scary thing. Here's one thing that the Cowboys, I don't think they can remedy as they try to keep up with the Eagles and, not standings wise, but more psychologically now, keep up with a 49er team that's lost 3 straight games.
Psychologically is the perfect point there.
Right. The Cowboys obviously have talent. That's not in dispute. But the Cowboys have 1 CeeDee Lamb. The Eagles kind of have 2 of them in Brown and Smith. And the 49ers, now I'm not saying that Brandon Ayuk is the same as CeeDee Lamb, but in terms of being on a tier somewhere, being in a class somewhere, there's something special about those 2 guys in San Francisco. There's definitely something special about the 2 guys in Philadelphia. And outside of CeeDee Lamb in Dallas, there's nothing special about the other guys who are pass catchers. And I don't know how you catch up with that. We know, of course, now that Martavis Bryant, the 5-year suspended NFL substance abuse issue, who we just got done speaking to, he's now a Cowboy.
He said he's feeling a little nervous.
And he should be.
Which he said was a good feeling.
5 years. He did CFL, he did XFL, he did Arena League.
He said he ran into the wall and thought, I think I'm done with this.
He did the Fan Control League. So that shows a level of want to on his part. But the idea of hoping that he's somehow going to help close the gap, he's a million miles away from being that